Back here, protesters marching against Islamic law in more than 20 cities, drawing out protesters of their own.
Blue lives matter! Blue lives matter! Blue lives matter!
The rallies were organized by Act for America, which claims Islamic law goes against Western democracy. Their crowds prompted counter rallies, accusing the original group of stoking unfounded fears and distorting the religion. Brian Yennis is here in our studio with more. You were out there today. What was it like, first of all, here in New York City?
There were some skirmishes, some clashes, but as you know, the NYPD always has these things on lock, and
yes.
so there wasn't one arrest, but everything, all in all, was okay. But that's a different story for the rest of the cities, and we'll get to that. The march in New York City was one of 28 taking place in cities across 19 states, and the anti-Sharia law marches were organized by Act for America, which calls itself the largest national security advocacy organization in the country. When word got out, radical left elements, pro-immigrant groups, anti-fascist organizations mobilized. Act for America believes Sharia law, or strict Islamic law, is a political ideology that's hell-bent on destroying Western civilization and its values. They say they're not anti-Muslim. They're standing for human rights, saying Sharia law is intolerant of freedoms for all people, especially women. They mention female mutilation, stoning, no voting rights. They believe Sharia law has gone unchecked for far too long and now threatens America.
We see a problem occurring. We see what's happening in Europe. We see what's happening in Britain. It's unimaginable. And we're looking at what's happening with them, and they are hamstrung. They can't speak out against it. People who speak out and say, no, Sharia is the problem.
Now, counter-protesters say the anti-Sharia law is a dog whistle, attracting racists and Islamophobes. They say Sharia law is not a threat to the U.S. Constitution. They point out that the Southern Poverty Law Center, which tracks hate groups, labels Act for America as the largest anti-Muslim advocacy group in the country.
Muslims are an extreme minority in the United States. No one believes that Sharia law is on the horizon. And it's simply a way to mobilize racists and mobilize people who are anti-immigrant, anti-refugee in a way that provides them cover.
Now, the anti-Sharia law group actually called a veterans conservative group called the Oath Keepers to actually secure this event, given what happened in Portland, Oregon, when that pro-Trump rally, there were clashes with the Antifa movement that we've seen out of Berkeley and whatnot.
You know, you said, that some skirmishes, but it's important to note that there was no violence that took place here in New York City anyway, as the NYPD does such an incredible job at keeping these things at bay. But what about other cities across America?
Right. Well, it was worse in other cities. At least 7 arrested in Minnesota as fights broke out at the state capitol in St. Paul. Just take a look at that. And in Seattle, about 100 counter-protesters met dozens of anti-Sharia law protesters. Objects were thrown, punches were thrown, several assault arrests were made. Similar scenes in Michigan and in Austin, Texas, where police divided counter-groups. Unsurprisingly, these protests, they morphed into other things, which basically, in a nutshell, pro-Trump versus anti-Trump, pro-travel ban versus anti-travel ban. When you start seeing these protests, especially dueling, everybody has their own reason for being there, so it gets a little testy right away.
Yeah, I think people just need a reason to go to a protest these days. But anyway, good to see that nobody was, majorly injured anyway.
Right.
All right, thank you very much. Brian Yennis.